67 GTO, LS turboed Mercedes. Ugh. I had some reservations about making this video on this machine because this is one of these jobs that I knew was going to bite me in the ass, and it hasn't really, but it's still early. So this is a Clark Ranger mid-80s 664 skidder or logging machine, articulating, four-wheel drive. Built like a tank. Only main job is to go into a bush and rip trees out and bring them somewhere where a truck can pick them up. And used to have a Detroit in it, now it's got a 4BT in it. The unique thing about this thing is that it's been maintenance free since '93. And this thing is just beat on and pounded on and abused and neglected and started in the winter with ether and more ether and just leaking in every orifice and seal that it could possibly leak out of. Trying to get away from this stuff. Now, originally, this is how I met Aaron, was that it was running rough and he needed a gear for the injection pump and an injection line that was leaking on it. And he looked me up and some people recommended him to me. So anyway, it ended up being a head gasket eventually.
Can't really tell, but it's pretty rough shape. I think that's where it blew out there, so you can see it's pretty clean here. It looks like it just would leak out there.
They ran it way too long and it started knocking soon after. So engine came out, disassembled, and definitely bearings were gone. Luckily the crank was okay. So you can see the flywheel here, that's actually driving this, the main input for this, and this is a transmission. So it would lock it up to a certain pump, but you can see these teeth here. You can just take these teeth and just knock them off. These teeth look okay. Would be even more euchred if these teeth were all messed up. But the logging industry isn't what it used to be, especially after the fall in 2009. So it's not like there's a pile of money around, very competitive business. One of the biggest fights between the States and Canada actually is logging and where the wood goes. So this thing, I said, yeah, all right, if you need it rebuilt, I can rebuild it. But they said, whoa, just replace the bearings. Don't worry about piston rings or anything like that. Took the head off, the head was cracked. So I got a new head for it. This is actually out of a pickup truck, it must be, and I'm just guessing. Of course, there's no tags on the engine anymore, but it's a VE pump with a turbo on it. Makes me think that most likely it was an on-road application. The head that he got replaced was an off-road application, different injectors. I had to get the injectors done. Once we had the engine out, the bell housing actually had 4 mounting bolts on the side, and it just had a plate that went right to the frame, and the whole thing rattled and shook apart. So the bell housing was no good, the drive gear was no good, so I had to make new mounts, get a new bell housing. This one actually has rubber mounts for it. We had to seal it up as best as we could on the tightest budget we possibly could. Had good luck with the engine, but with leaking hoses and transmission not working right, and that's kind of why I'm trying to get out of these jobs. I'm trying to get out of jobs like this, and the first and foremost reason is it is so disgusting. It is leaking exhaust mixing with leaking fuel and hydraulic oil and engine oil all over, and you just get black. And no matter how many times you wash your hands, you can't seem to get the shit off. And even if you wear gloves, it still seems to get on you. The bottom is just caked in oil. The whole belly pan is full of leaves. Makes welding very, very difficult. Even with fire extinguishers and precautions and fire blankets down, a little bit of welding, you still have high risk for fires, which this one actually did catch fire this morning. That was exciting. Ended up with this all over my arm. You see the scratches there, a little blister on my other hand, but no worries. We keep going. But just one more aggravation that I don't really need. That's the dipstick that they've been using for 15 years. It's completely low. It's way too low. Turns out that this dipstick doesn't even belong to this machine. I want to see progress at the end of the day, and I hate talking on the phone all day trying to find parts and whatever, and guys look at me like, why are you even working on this shit? It's still kind of neat for a family of 3 here, actually, father, son, and another son, and they're trying hard, they're hard workers, they're good guys, so why not help them out as best as we can, right? So that's what we're here for. So now we got it moving. So some of the things we ran into on this engine was cracked bell housing, different mounts. And then on the other side, the starter is actually up higher, so that got in the way of the turbo. So then we had to flip the manifold upside down and run new exhaust, which actually goes around the top of the engine and then comes out. Not a bad thing, because it had to be redone anyway. Now it's got a shaker hood, and I was gonna build a nice little cover for it, but they said don't bother, just leave it as it is. I said okay. When I got it, didn't even have oil pressure or temperature gauges, so we installed those for them, because at least you got to monitor it a little bit. This one, really, it needs a full restoration almost. They go forever, but the pins are so sloppy, no brakes. The pivots and the cylinders are so sloppy, it's ridiculous. All the detents, you can barely feel them. Typically on a full rebuild, if I were to rebuild an engine, you dismantle the whole thing, new frost plugs, new hoses, new everything, so that you can say, you know what, that engine is not gonna leave you down. There's nothing worse than paying thousands of dollars to get an engine rebuilt, and one stupid little line breaks, or a coolant hose or whatever was cracked and is leaking now on equipment. He said just put bearings in it, reseal the front and the back, and I even had to work hard to try and convince him to do that, and found a couple other small things that had to be fixed, like plugs missing right out of the manifolds and all his boost is going away. So fix that, and they are thrilled with how it runs. But I hate half-assing it, and I'd show you guys how to rebuild a 4BT, but I'm not proud of this one. So we'll save a full rebuild and tear down for something else. I almost don't want my name on it, and it sounds great, it runs great, but even still, it's only half done. So for now, we're gonna leave it at that. You know what, it's exactly what they wanted. They told me that's what we want, that's what we want to pay for, and nothing else, and you gotta honor that too, I guess. So if you're wondering why there is no LS video for a bit, well, this took up an entire week and it shouldn't have. So for now, it's gone. One more night of it leaking in my shop, and then I can go keep the dust down in the bush somewhere. So here we go. That is loud and comfortable, smoky, and a pain in the ass. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you love the channel, consider picking up a tape boss to make those projects go faster so you got more time to watch YouTube. And remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich.